Hello everyone, welcome to our very first honorary speaker series from Letter Education. In today's event, we'll be using both English and Burmese to communicate. So first of all, let me introduce something about our Letter Education. So our mission at Letter Education is to provide K-12 students in Myanmar with high quality and world-class education in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, which is also known as STEAM. Moreover, LT will provide students in higher education and working professionals with ICT-related courses and trainings that are becoming important in 21st century. Okay, so the topic of today's event is drag and drop code, Thunkable, and democratizing software. So in this event, we'll be introducing you to Thunkable, which is a drag and drop coding tool, and it makes coding much easier for the people without a coding background. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about Thunkable. In Thunkable, you can create custom mobile apps for Android, iOS, and also web applications just by dragging and dropping some blocks of codes. Today, Professor David Wolber will be talking about drag and drop coding tools, and he will demonstrate some coding examples with Thunkable from his new book. So let's get started. Ms. Ijamu will now introduce you to the professor.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Professor. It's so good to see you all showing up to our talk show. I'm HMO, and today I will be of an assistant if you have any questions. First of all, let me introduce you to Professor David Wolber, who is the very first guest speaker of the LD Honorable Speaker Series. Well, Professor David Wolber is a professor of computer science at the University of San Francisco, and he is also a leader in teaching beginners how to code. His main focus is empowering artists, designers, kids, women, men, people of color, humanities majors, business citizens, business students, citizen developers, makers of all types to add coding to their creative arsenals. Not only that, but also he is the author of Drag and Drop Code with Thunkable, along with Raffle and App Inventor 2, create your own Android apps along with MIT App Inventor lead, Hal Edison, and developers Hella Spiders at Least Learning. Furthermore, the website he currently runs are drag&dropcode.com and appinventor.org, which have introduced thousands of new app builders to the world of code. Surprisingly, he is a big fan of basketball and literature. So now, Ms. Chumeno will invite the speaker.
Now is the time for inviting our honorable speakers. So I would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor, Professor David Wolber, with a huge round of applause. Let's welcome him. Hello, Professor. Glad to see you. First of all, hi. First of all, I would like to say thank you for your coming and sharing drag and drop code, Thunkable, and Democratizing Software today. We can't wait for your sharing, so let's get started. The floor is yours, Professor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and bring up this presentation. So I'll share my screen. And so I'm also going to, yeah, somebody else is sharing the screen, it says.
Okay.
Oh, here it goes. I think it's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, it's good. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I never heard so many things about about myself. So nice to see everyone. You know, my talk is about drag and drop code, which I think is this amazing kind of new development over the last so many years that's really empowering a lot of people to be able to build apps. Okay, so here's kind of my talk, and at the top you can get to these slides if you want to check out these slides, and I'll show this again at the end, but it's a tiny URL link, and it's called Thunk Talk. Okay, so if you want to check out the slides and there's some links in it, you can get to it there. But a couple of things about our talk. I'm going to talk about this term called no code. I'm going to talk about two tools, mostly Thunkable, a little bit of Adalo. Okay, I'll talk about democratizing software. All right, and there's this one quote, you know, 70% of new software is developed, at least with enterprises, with these tools, these no code, low code tools, which is pretty amazing. The world is changing. The world of software is changing. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention, and I'll talk a little bit about my new book that is just hot off the presses, just released. I haven't even announced it yet. I'm kind of announcing it today. And also there will be a raffle today, and I'll give away one free book, and I'll build an app which will be the raffle. So we're going to build a raffle app is one thing we're going to build today. So yeah, let me get started. And please, folks, I love interaction. I want to answer your questions. So feel free to ask stuff, put things in the chat, and the moderators can pause me and ask me questions as we go.
Sure.
So
yes, what David is saying that is like, if you have questions, I don't know, maybe I see a solution. I go microphone for me, check out it, me to Yabare, or Pamalo Mila, go around, any look and be all, Professor David Wabao, group me, yeah. Hey, yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks, Jan. Okay. So just a real quick look and plug for my university. If anybody's getting ready for college, or I saw some youngsters out there in a few years, if you're ready for college, this is the University of San Francisco. That orange bridge is called the Golden Gate Bridge. And University of San Francisco is a Jesuit university, Catholic, and that's the church on the campus. But the campus is right in the middle of the city. And of course, we're kind of nicely located in Silicon Valley, right? So there's all kinds of wonderful software companies and startups, and there's a lot of activity. So my students at USF get to go to meetups and do internships, and it's a really cool place to go to school. So if you're interested, send me an email and we can talk. I'm very happy to be here. This is really cool for me. I've never given a talk at 7 a.m. in the morning, but I love it. Fortunately, I'm an old guy, so I wake up early anyway. But anyway, I'm happy to be here and to work with Twae Education and Jan and everyone from there. Okay, so I think the wonderful introduction kind of went over this. I've authored a number of books. App Inventor was one of the first blocks languages, at least for doing mobile apps. Okay, it's a wonderful language built out of MIT. And I wrote a book with Hal Abelson is kind of the chief over there, and kind of is a lead of that project. And then also with the Google folks, developers, Ellen Spertus and Liz Looney, so App Inventor actually got built at Google and then moved to MIT after that. Now Thunkable is a startup, and it's actually 2 students from MIT. So it's built on top of App Inventor, that was a big influence for them. And so Thunkable is kind of the next language that I've been teaching with Thunkable now for the last few years. And then I also run these sites, appinventor.org, drag&drop code. If you prefer video, I've got a lot of video on those 2 sites, if you want to follow that. And what I really suggest is, having a book and the videos as you work through things, and kind of go through the book and code as you go, and then also watch the videos, which can help you code as you go. But I think make sure you learn the concepts, right? Make sure you learn the terminology, and that's where kind of a book can be really helpful, because what you want to do is learn how to code in any language, and you can certainly learn that by coding in App Inventor or Thunkable, which we're going to look at today. Okay, so for me, the coolest thing is, as a teacher, I go in the first day of class. Okay, and everybody's coming in, they sit down and they're kind of half asleep, and they're like, what are we going to do today? Oh, you're going to go over the syllabus, it's boring. Yeah. And what I say is, take out your phone, which right away the students are like, what? We don't get to take out our phones in class, right? I say, take out your phone and we're going to build an app. Okay. And before I even go over the syllabus, the first 10 minutes of class, the students build an app and they see it on their iPhone or their Android or whatever phone they got. Okay. And it's very motivating. It gets them psyched up. And basically in class, we build stuff every day, including that first day. So if you're teachers out there, or if you're students, it's a really fun way to learn, because you can take your work home and show your parents or your friends, and you can build apps for yourself, for your friends. So it's a really good way to do it. And if you're a teacher, what teachers like is very motivated students, right? And that's what a tool like Thunkable gives you, because right away, even if you've never coded before, you can do some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demo of Thunkable to get started here. And let me bring up the tool and bear with me here as I go back and forth between things. But this is the Thunkable language, and you can just go to thunkable.com and you can, for free, register and start building apps, okay? And I'm going to build a translation app, and I'm just going to start from scratch. And create a new project. And I'll just call this Translate 99 because I built a few of these, okay? And then I'll just say it's an education app is the category. And then you're always going to want to choose this drag and drop builder, which is the default. Okay, so I'm going to just say create here. And what's going to come up is a blank screen, which is my app. Okay, and that's where I'm gonna start. And there's kind of actually three windows. Okay, there's the designer, and this is where you kind of drag on what the app's going to look like. The blocks, and I'll show you this in a bit, this is where you do the interactive code, like how is the app going to behave, okay? And then finally, this thing over here on the right is actually, this is my phone, okay? And it's, it's projecting, my phone's being projected onto the computer. So you're seeing my phone over here, and that's where I'm going to test my apps. So it's kind of a 3-screen, environment, right? Okay, so I'm going to build a translator. So I'm going to just drag in a couple labels here, and I'm going to make them a little bigger. And I think I mentioned drag and drop as one of the, the user interface. And within Thunkable, what that means is I can do what I'm doing right now. I can just drag these things in, resize them, almost like you're using a Photoshop or something, right? It's really cool how you can do that, because most coding platforms, you do not get to just kind of drag and drop and put things where you want. And as you drag, I don't know if some red lines will come up. Well, you'll see them in a bit. There it goes. Like it'll tell you if you're centered and all that. So it kind of helps you do those things. Okay, so I've got these two labels, and I'm just going to put English here to start off. And I'm going to put, we'll do Japanese. Jan told me a lot of students are studying Japanese. So we'll do a translation, but of course you could code it however you want. And then what we're going to do is speech recognition. Okay, so the user is going to be able to talk. And what I'm going to do is say, talk in English. That's what this button is going to say, and I'll drag it, make it bigger. Okay, so we're going to, just to show you this, we're going to build a simple app where they click the button, they say something, the speech recognition figures out what they say, and then we'll translate it. Okay, and then maybe we'll speak it out loud too. And one thing I'm going to do is, so these are basically all the components I can add to my app, and then up in the top are all the components in my app. Okay, so I've got 3 components up there, and I'm going to kind of rename these guys. And the name of this guy is called Label 1. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to say, oh, that's English label. And the reason I rename it is because when I get over to the coding part, to the blocks editor, I want to know what I'm dealing with, right? So it's really important to kind of describe your, sorry, I got to spell. I can't talk and spell at the same time. So there's my Japanese label. And then I'll just call this guy the talk button. But it's really important to describe your components well with names. Okay, so anyway, I've just set up my app. Maybe I can put at least a background here. I don't know. Ooh, that's not very pretty. Okay, let's just go with something lighter. Okay, not beautiful, but here's my app. And of course, you can make this look as good as you want. You can bring in images, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so, but really we haven't done much yet. I'm going to go to my phone now. And on my phone, I'm going to open up this app called, whoops, there's my mom and my son. There's an app called Thunkablelive. And if you go to either of the app stores, you can download it. And right now, this is running a different app. So let me touch this guy right here. And you'll see, here's my app running. It's not doing much yet. But on my phone, when I make changes to the coding, it's gonna in real time change what's happening on the phone. So I get to test my app as I go, which is a really cool thing about Thunkable. Okay. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and build some of the interactive behavior. So I'm going to go to the blocks editor, which is up here on the left. And now I'm going to build what happens when the person clicks. Okay. And I'm going to go to my talk button and I'm going to drag out this yellow block. And it's a when do block. It's called an event handler. And what that means is I'm going to say, when someone clicks that talk button, what do I want my app to do? Okay, so some event happens like, oh, the user just clicked something. How should the app respond? It's an event response, right? So on my talk button.click, what do I want to happen? Well, I want to let the person, let the person speak. And so I'm going to go over to this speech folder and there's a block called recognize speech. Okay, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to control click on it. I'm going to control click on this block and show advanced block. Okay, and I'm going to stick it in here. And basically what I'm saying is when they click that button, turn on the microphone, start recognizing the speech of the user, let them talk and figure out what they say. Okay, and this little green thing that says speech, that's going to have whatever words they say in it. Okay, it's a little weird. So that's like the output parameter. It's, oh yeah, once they've spoken, where is what they said, the text of it, right? Okay, and just to start off, I'm going to stick that in my English label. Okay. All right, so I don't know, take a look at these blocks, but right now, if I run this app and I say something, the text should show up where it says English. It should replace that with whatever the person said. Okay, so let's try it out. Where's my phone? Okay, there it is. I'm going to run my app now. When I touch talk in English, I'm going to then say something. Cats and dogs. Okay, let me close out the Thunkable Live. Let's try it again. So I'm opening up Thunkable Live again to rerun it. And sometimes you have to do that when you make changes. So let me try it again. I'm going to say talk in English. Cats and dogs. And notice the text change over here on my screen to cats and dogs. So, we don't have anything too interesting yet, but at least we recognize speech, right? And think about it, just what we did just right there, you're getting close to Siri or Alexa, at least the fundamental parts of it, right? You're able to, whatever the user says, to catch what they say, and now we'll do something with it. What we'll do is translate it to Japanese, at least to start, okay? So I'm going to go back to my speech folder, and I'm going to grab this translation block. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and do the advanced block, and I'm going to stick it right in there. Okay, so what I want to do is translate whatever words the person said, and I'm going to translate it not to Spanish, but to Japanese, or whatever I want, in this case, Japanese. Okay, from English to Japanese. I don't want to translate hello. I want to translate this guy called speech, right? Because when I recognize the speech, it comes back in this block, in this variable called speech. So I'm going to grab it and stick it in there. Okay, so recognize some speech. It comes back in this green guy called speech. Stick the green speech guy into the translate plug, translate it, and then I'm going to get a new block called the translated text, which is going to be the Japanese translation. Okay, and I got to do something with that. I'm going to stick it in Japanese label. Okay, cool. And then I could also, do something like, oh, let's go ahead and say it. You're not going to get to hear this because my phone's plugged in and you're not going to hear the volume. But anyway, that's basically what we want to do. Okay, and I'll just show you how that works just to give you an idea. So I'm going to touch this. Let's see if it works without having to restart. But I'll say talk in English, cats and dogs. Okay, yeah, it looks like I got to close out and reopen. So I'm just going to reopen the Thunkable Live. The other thing I can do is I can press this little guy up here and that will update it as well. But let's try this again. So I'm going to say talk in English. So I press the button, cats and dogs. And oh, it looks like I have something. Oh, sorry. Good. I have a bug in my program. You'll notice what I said was set the Japanese label.text to label. That's not what I wanted to do, right? What I want to do is the translated text. Okay, so look, I wrote the book on Thunkable, and yet I made a mistake. Okay, and that's what coding's about. You're going to make all kinds of mistakes, and you just got to test things and fix it. So going back to my app, and let's see if we don't have to restart again. I'm going to touch the talk in English. Cats and dogs. Okay, and I don't know if that's the right Japanese or not. And so those of you studying Japanese, is that cats and dogs? I don't know. But anyway,
it's a bit of katakana and kanji, I think.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it uses Google Translate underneath. But now you have the power of Google Translate, of speech recognition. You have the power to use that in your own apps, right? Which is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to show you one more demo, and then I'm going to talk more, and we'll do some more demos later. But let me show you one more demo. So I'm going to create a new project, and we're going to do some image recognition. And Jan, any questions right now before we jump into the next demo?
So a student asked, like, okay, so we used Japanese here as a translated language, but we are Burmese, so we are more interested in, like, say, can we translate that cats and dogs into Burmese, right? The question is, like, does Thunkable support Burmese? Yeah.
I didn't quite get the last part.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, maybe I would rephrase. So the question is whether we can translate from English to Burmese in Thunkable.
Good. Yeah, let me go back into the app. I'll show you the languages that they have, and these are all the languages right here.
What?
Okay, we can scroll it down and then
French, everything. What the hell?
okay, not here. So
Not there?
Hikato, do you have any experience trying this? With
No.
Can you do Korea?
Yeah, so the key, one of the keys is, like you can definitely play around, yourself, right? But also you can make it where the user of the app gets to choose, which language gets translated. Okay, and that takes some extra code and whatnot, but yeah, we can do that.
So we have one question in the chat. So
Yeah.
it's asking is whether this translate is using Google Translate at the backend, sort of.
Yes, I believe it's using Google Translate on the back end, but I at least it was Thunkable was doing that, I believe,
Sure.
and I think it still is, yeah.
Zaika Lao. So Zaika, do you have any question to ask?
Sure. This application is very interesting for me, and I think it's similar like Elementor in Wolber's framework.
Which framework?
Okay, so what he means is,
WordPress.
yeah, sorry, let me interrupt. So what he means is the Elementor in WordPress.
Yeah, sure.
I would say it's not exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's similar, and yeah, it's very easy to use. And I just want to know, this application have like disadvantages?
Sorry, what was the last word?
Disadvantages. Whether the hacker has
for
sure,
some
sure.
hacker to
Yeah, good.
this.
That's a great question. And kind of my short answer is and I'm glad you mentioned that other app. There, these kind of no code they call them, which is it's not a good term. I'll talk about that later. But these visual programming tools, there's a big so-called disadvantage is people perceive them as being toy applications, or you can't build real stuff, or there's going to be a limitation somewhere, right? Where you're going to try to build something, but you get stuck because you can't quite do it using the visual tool. Now, I think Thunkable is pretty much Turing complete. You can pretty much do anything. Okay, so people are realizing now that these tools have gotten so good that that the limitation of what can I build with it is pretty much kind of going away, right? But I'd say the biggest disadvantage of visual coding tools is, one, the perception that they can't do anything, which is maybe true or not true, and is becoming much less true, because they are very powerful now. And then also, maybe there is a limitation at some point. So, a lot of it is, what kind of applications do you want to build? You can build a bunch of stuff. You can prototype, of course, and you can build MVPs, quick, this is the app, and you can learn about what the app's supposed to be, and you can build complete apps that go on the App Store. Okay. But, maybe there's a limitation somewhere where if you're using, Python or Java or, any kind of traditional language, it's perceived at least that you could do anything.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, sure thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead then and let me just show a real quick one more demo, and this is going to be image recognition. And it's kind of a goofy app, but let me create an app, and I'm going to call it image rec. Okay, well, actually, let me call it describe my pic. So what this app is going to do is you can go around with your camera and you can take pictures, and what the app will do is use AI to recognize the image and come up with a description for it. Okay, so pretty powerful technology, right? Getting the image recognizer, and you could use it to build like scavenger hunt apps. One thing I've had my students do is a project where you go around and have to take a picture, and the words get described, and then if you're looking for a kitty cat, the word better have cat in there, and then you want to get a point or something. So anyway, let me bring this screen up. I'm going to put an image in here. Okay, let me make it a little bigger. And I don't know if I should do this because it's early in the morning, but you're probably going to see a picture of me is the way it's going to work. And then I'm going to have a button, and I'm just going to say, okay, let's take a pic, right? Okay, and I'll call that take pic. Oh, I'll just call it what it is. And then I need a label, and this label is going to be the description, right? So it's going to describe whatever picture I take. Okay, so that's the and let's just call that label description label. Okay, and then I'll go to my blocks, and I'm going to say button 1, and when it's clicked, what I want to do is go to the camera, and I want to get a photo from the camera. Okay, and I'm going to actually stick that photo directly in this image. Okay, and then what I want to do is then I want to set my description label. And what I want to do is go back to camera, and there's this block, which is basically the image recognizer. It's called description of image from, and I'm going to stick that in there. Okay, and I want to get I'm going to actually grab the image one.picture and stick it in there. Okay, so take a picture, stick it in so it shows up, and then just, ask the image recognizer to take that picture and come up with a description and then stick it in my label. All right, so let's see, where's my phone? I'm grabbing my phone right now, bringing it up. It's got the other app on it, so I'm going to click this guy up at the top right, and it should bring up my thing. Okay. And I'm going to say, take a picture. And okay, that's my television. Let's see if it gets my television. Okay. I don't know. There's the picture. Oh, I got to say, use photo. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So it took my picture, showed it, and notice it described it as a flat screen TV sitting in a living room. And you might notice I need to get a TV stand. So sorry, my living room's not quite ready for prime time. But anyway, that's what it does. So very powerful stuff. You can do a lot with it, and it's kind of fun to think about. Okay, so let me move Thunkable out of the way, and I think I have a talk here someplace. And sorry, let me bring this up again. Okay, so we just did a quick demo. Let me just talk real quick about some of the features. A key thing is choose and don't type. And some of you probably maybe took a first coding class that used Python or Java or something, or C. The frustration people get is real. And I've had so many smart students with great logic and great ideas who love software and want to do stuff, but they get frustrated from that initial setting, and they have to type these complicated codes, and they get these cryptic error messages, and they go away. They leave computer science. They say, this is not what I wanted. And so a big part of it is in Thunkable, I can go choose the blocks, right? And then plug stuff in. And, and when I plug stuff in, a lot of times I get to just choose there as well. And I don't have to type some weird syntax in order to like call a function with parameters. So anyway, that's a big part of why Thunkable is good, is choosing instead of typing. And it's amazing how frustrating that typing part is. And a lot of students like, oh, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at coding, because they got lost at that step. And it's sad because once you get some success, then later on you can switch to a textual language and you feel a lot better, and you do fine. Another big thing is event handlers. So these yellow blocks, these when do blocks, they are a primitive construct in the language. So you can very quickly say, oh, what happens when a button is clicked? Or, you can do more complex events too. Like notice this one on the bottom left, when an asteroid hits this other kind of sprite, give me a point, right? Give me another life. And that's what this code over here does. So your events can be pretty complex, whereas in different coding languages, you have to do some pretty low level stuff to make that happen. Another event over here is this when timer.fires. And it's weird that that's an event because no one's doing anything, but that event means the passing of time. Okay, you can set how much time, like I think in my asteroid game, it's 10 seconds. But every time 10 seconds passes, I create, I create a new asteroid at a random location and get it moving. Okay, so anyway, these event handlers are a huge part of why the Thunkable languages work so well. And same with App Inventor and Scratch and these kind of blocks languages. they're based on these event handlers, which is really cool. Okay, data sources is the other thing. So, a lot of, really most apps.
Sorry, David, can I interrupt a bit?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so there's one question from the audience. It's asking if, let's say, there is a backend API. So is there a way you can connect to the backend API and make a call?
Yeah, good, great question. So there is a component called Web API in Thunkable, and essentially you can pretty easily connect to the, so what an API is some code, some software that lives on some other server, right? For instance, like the Google Translator. Okay. So anyway, the idea is you can use that component to make the call to that other server, and it'll send back usually this stuff called JSON. Right. And then of course you can process that stuff. Okay. So yeah, Thunkable allows you to connect to the outside world in that way. Now that stuff's, it's fairly complicated. It's doable. Like I've had first semester students do it. But it is, kind of a more advanced thing to do, because you have this weird JSON stuff, not weird, but it's JSON really code, but data in code, and you have to kind of process that, which is not horrible, but it's something you got to do. The other thing you can do though is connect to these data sources. And by data sources, I just mean like a Google Sheet or an Airtable. So, kind of an online spreadsheet, basically. You can connect to them very easily in Thunkable. And let me just do a quick demonstration of that. So let me bring up my Thunkable again. Okay, and I'm gonna, and I also wanted to show you, I've got this spreadsheet. Okay, so we're gonna build like a Meet My Classmates app, so you could use this for any organization or a class you're taking, and show pictures of all the people and be able to try to get know everybody's name, right? And you can do an app for it pretty quickly. So I've got this spreadsheet and I want to appify it. I want to turn it into an app. Okay, so there's the spreadsheet. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to build a brand new app. And sorry for the delay here. Let's see. There it goes. So I'm going to create a new app, and I'm going to call this one Meet My Classmates. And I'm going to call it education. Maybe it's entertainment. I don't know. Create. So I'm going to create this app. And what's amazing is, just with a couple clicks, I can connect this spreadsheet so it's part of my app, which it's weird. In most development platforms, that's pretty hard stuff that takes a while. Okay, so here's my blank screen app. The first thing I do is come over here to data, and I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to go down here, and I can say, okay, I want to do a new, you'll notice I've done a lot of apps, right? Here's class roster 7. I can also create new and choose any Google Doc I have. All right, so I'm just going to choose this one that I already did. And now I've got this spreadsheet basically in my app. It's not showing up on the screen or anything, but my app knows about the spreadsheet now. Okay, well, okay, that's cool. And then what I'm going to do is go back in my designer, and there's this thing called data viewer grid. And basically it knows how to show all the stuff in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to make it bigger. And then I'm going to choose it. And notice I can choose, okay, what spreadsheet do I want to show? Well, obviously I want to show class roster 7, okay? And I can also say what should show up in this picture, okay? And you'll notice it comes up, it's very nice. It shows the exact columns that are in my spreadsheet. Notice there's name, pick, description. So, obviously I want the column called pick, which has URLs of all the pictures. And notice it shows up over here. And then I can choose text is going to be the name. And there we go. So all of a sudden I have an app which is showing the data from this live spreadsheet. Okay, which is pretty cool. Later, and I'll give you the URL in a bit. If you want, you can put your name and description in here, and then we're going to use it to build a raffle app, and that's where I'll give away this amazing book. Okay, will be the prize. Okay, but we'll build that in a bit. Okay, so anyway, so I've got this home page which is showing stuff, and now I want to add another screen. So I'm going to add a screen which is kind of the info screen, and I'll just call it info screen. And what I want to do on the info screen is show more about each. So we'll just show one person on the info screen. And what I want to do on it is show an image. Okay, so we'll show the picture of the person. And I'll choose contain. And then I'm going to show a label. And I'm not going to make this look pretty. I'm just mainly we're looking at how to do the behaviors, right? But we're going to show the name. And so that'll be name label. And then we're going to show the description. And that'll be the description label. Make that a little bit bigger. And I don't want anything in these guys to start. Just leave it blank. Okay, so here's my app. I can mess around and make this look good, but essentially what I want is when they click on one of these guys, I want it to bring up the page and show all the information about the person, which is not that much information, but you get the idea. Okay, so first of all, in my blocks, when they choose from the data viewer grid, so here's another event, right? When they choose one of the items on the data viewer, I need to do something, okay? And what I'm going to do first thing is I'm going to figure out what the row ID is. So this row ID is kind of this hidden, you can't see it in the spreadsheet, but every row has an identifier, a big long piece of text, which is how it's identified. And I'm going to just stick, whoops, sorry, I'm not doing this right. Hold on. So I'm going to, this is called a variable. So it's like a little memory cell, right? And I'm going to say this is the current row. Okay. And I'm just going to stick the default text in there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, once I create that variable, I can set it. And I'm going to set my current row to the row ID. So they're going to choose one for me. I'm going to grab what they chose, stick it in this variable. And then really what I want to do is go to the second screen. Okay. Now on that info screen in my blocks, right when I open up, so there's another event called opens. Okay. So when my screen opens up, what do I want to do? Well, I want to stick something in the image. I want to stick something in the name label. And I want to stick something in the description label. Okay, and really cool, there's this data sources guy down here, and I've got blocks which are already set up for me, which say, okay, yeah, that's the name, so let's stick it there. I'm going to Command C, Command V. The picture is going to be, let's see, the pic. Okay, and then one more, I need the description. Okay, now I need to stick the ID in here because this is not right? But remember, I've got a variable where I stored the current row, and that's what I want to stick in as the ID. You know, remember on the other screen, we set that guy so we could remember and know when we got to the second screen, oh yeah, the current row ID is in that variable, right? So screen one set the variable to whichever one they chose. And then when you get to the info screen, use it to show the right thing. Okay, so I'm going to try, let's see if the web previewer works. Sometimes I think you have to do it on your phone. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to go back to screen one. Let's try this out. Okay, cool. So here's the only 3 people, but if I had more people in my spreadsheet, like when we do the raffle, if people add themselves to the sheet, they'll all show up, right? But when I choose one of these, I'll choose my co-author Rafiki, and there, notice it puts his name and his description because that's what we just coded up. Okay, obviously you got to beautify this, right? But what I showed you here is that's the behavior of kind of turning a spreadsheet into an app. And really a key thing is, yeah, you can display things nicely, but you can also process the data, right? So with a spreadsheet, I couldn't do a Raffle. And later what we're going to do is we're going to take the data we load in from the spreadsheet and we'll do a Raffle with it. But you might also do math like, averaging out ratings and all that kind of stuff. Okay, anyway, there's a data sources sample. And let me jump back to our talk. Sorry. Okay, so data sources. We just demoed this, really easy to connect. And so take down, if you want to join the Raffle, here's the URL, okay? And it's a tinyurl.com thunk sheet. And what you can do is go to that link, go to the class roster, and you can just add your name in here. Okay, and you can just add your name and description. You don't have to worry about a picture unless you want to put a picture. But if you put a picture, it's got to be, a JPEG or a PNG, something like that. And don't worry about the lat long because we're not doing any map stuff today. Okay, but anyway, if you want to have a chance to win the prize, go ahead sometime in the next few minutes and add yourself to that. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the talk here, and folks, please feel free to add yourself if you want to join this spreadsheet. Okay. All right. So back to the talk, and just I want to say a couple things about these data sources. It's real nice that Thunkable generates these blocks for you, right? So as soon as you connect your sheet, it kind of looks at the sheet and says, oh yeah, you've got all these different column headings, and it makes very concrete, very specific blocks to use, which is much easier than the traditional way where you have to specify like a key, you have to figure out, oh, what are the column names? And for beginners, it's really hard, where for beginners, it's really nice to say, oh yeah, create a row in that sheet I just created, and all I have to do is plug these things in. So it's pretty nice. Okay, I want to talk about some more Thunkable features, and I'll just go pretty briefly over these because I see time-wise we're going pretty fast. So persistent and cloud variables. In Thunkable, you can have a variable, like I have one called secret. This is for a game where there's a secret number. But when I create the variable, I can say whether it's app, stored, or cloud. An app is like volatile memory, like your normal variables that, when an app closes, the information goes away. Stored is stored on the device, and cloud is stored in the cloud. So the nice thing is, once you say, okay, this is a cloud variable, if you then just use the regular variable set command, right, like x equals 3 or secret equals 5, it actually gets stored out onto the cloud in a shared space. So all the users using the app have access to that same variable. Okay, so it's a really easy way to do like multi-user kind of apps. And so that's a really cool feature about Thunkable. I'm not going to show a sample of it today, but if you have a chance, check that out. It's really fun. You can do animation, and I won't do a demo right now, but like you can build this little asteroid game or a thunk mash game where the little guy jumps around and you try to touch it and you get a point when you touch it. So you can't, there's no 3D animation, but you can do kind of 2D arcade-like games and basically have, a screen, whatever you want for the stage, and then little sprites that move around, and the coding is actually pretty easy. So it's pretty cool stuff. Another key feature, it's cross-platform. So you build, like the stuff I just built I could say, okay, I want to run it on Android. I want to run it on iPhone. You can also install on those. It's a harder process to actually get it onto the stores, right? It takes a while, but you can do it. And then you can also do web apps, okay, meaning an app that will run on any phone or even on your computer or whatever. Okay, now the web apps right now are only with the pro version. Okay, so not with the free version, but with the free version, you can do Android and iPhone, right out of the gate. Okay, so I just want to say a little bit about no code, the ecosystem. We looked at a language, Thunkable, which is a blocks coding, and some of you use Scratch and App Inventor. Those all came, they're in the same line as far as these kind of blocks coding systems. And they started out MIT, Google was involved, and now this company called Thunkable. And there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of other ones as well. This is a big, huge kind of market right now. There's also form-based coding tools like Adalo and Bubble, and they're really good at apps with data, okay, and kind of not animations and that kind of stuff, but apps where you bring data in, and right out of the gate, you get like user login and registration. So when I say create a new project, it's already got all those screens set up for me and a database for my users, and then I can add kind of posting apps and that kind of stuff based on it. So I call those form-based coding because there's not really blocks, but you kind of go into dialogues and specify your behaviors, right? Your when do. It's just a little bit different way where you use these dialogues to do it instead of blocks. Okay, the kind of disadvantage of the form-based tools is they don't have if statements and loops. They don't have coding constructs, at least not all of them. So we talked about limitations earlier. These tools tend to have even more limitations than, say, the blocks coding tools, because you can't get to kind of a normal code layer. The blocks coding, it's the same as Python, Java. You've got all your coding constructs, but they're just in blocks form, where the form-based coding is a little bit more template-based and a little more limited in what you can build. Okay, now no code, I don't like the term at all, right? No code, okay, because what we just did is coding, right? We're specifying an interactive app, all right? So no code, I don't like the term, but I do like it in the sense that, wow, it's got a lot of hype and it's really helping to popularize visual coding and this democratizing of computing. So I like it in that way. Of course, I like the term drag and drop code, and that's also the name of my book, right? So, but I think drag and drop code kind of really is a more positive term for what we're talking about. Okay, and visual coding is what we used to call it. I was going to do a quick look at Adalo. Let me just open that up real quickly, just so I can show you, because Adalo is a really cool tool. And when you go there, and like I built kind of different versions of kind of Instagram, like simple ones and then more complex ones with followers and stuff. But anyway, here's my little Instagram Lite I built. And what I wanted to say was, let's see if I can make these guys bigger. I've got to sign up and log in. So right when I say new project, these screens already are there for me, and also a blank home screen, right? And at Adalo, right out of the gate, you get that, and they give you this database of users. And so without coding anything, I've got a thing where someone can log in and I can know who my users are, and that's really nice, okay? And then you can also build databases like, like I can say, okay, I want to have posts where there's like a text and image and author, and pretty quickly build a Instagram-like app without doing any code. And one of the nice things is, and I'll go to this home screen, and in my home screen, I've got this list, and this is like where I'm going to view all the posts that someone's made. And one really nice thing that Thunkable doesn't yet have is this way to kind of filter the data. Okay, so yeah, I want to show all the posts on my screen, or maybe I just want to show only the posts from the current user, right? I just want to see my own posts, and I can easily kind of specify that in with this kind of filter. Okay, which is really nice. In Thunkable, I don't know if you remember when I did the Meet My Classmates, it showed all the people in the whole spreadsheet, and there wasn't an easy way to kind of filter it. You can filter it in your blocks, but that's a little more complicated than just being able to say, oh yeah, let's filter it this way. Okay, so one thing that these languages do is one thing that these languages do is they let you filter very easily. And that's probably the biggest advantage of the form-based tools. Okay, so, kind of two goals with democratizing software. One is empowering people to thrive. Okay, today's society is very digital. There's a lot of data, a lot of processing. And if you can understand how to code even a little bit, or even talk the talk with code, it can be very helpful to you in your career. So one thing we want to do is empower people, and there's also an equity and kind of diversity, right, as far as that. But the other thing, the other goal is infusing the software development field with creative big picture thinkers, right? We want the people that have great ideas and that are great designers, we want them to be able to directly code stuff. Okay, and it's going to make it so we get better software, right? We want good software in our world, and so we need the people that have the best ideas to be able to do it. And we want to kind of get rid of this, the old divide was called the digital divide, okay, but now there's this thing called the coder divide, and that's one of my goals, is to try to get people past it. Okay, a couple things. 70% of software is going to be built with no-code tools by 2025. Pretty amazing, right? There's a huge market and lots of jobs for people that know how to code software using no-code, quote-unquote, no-code tools. $13.8 billion was spent on low-code, no-code development in 2021. There's a huge market for this. There's a term called citizen developers, and really that means people that can use Thunkable, Adalo. There's another tool called Bubble. There's all kinds of these no-code tools, and Gartner predicts that there are going to be 4x as many of those as professional coders in the world in 2023. Okay, then that doesn't mean you shouldn't become a professional. By professional, really what I mean is a text coder, a Java, Python, C++, whatever coder. We still need those people, and those are, that's a great field to go into. But there's also this other, burgeoning field, which is citizen, what they call, the term's not great, citizen developer. It does have the connotation of democratizing, right? But really it means a developer who does software using these visual tools. Okay, so what can all these folks do? Well, prototypes, minimally viable products, so the kind of the first version of a software, automations. Okay, so in companies, people want to build software to do stuff for their company, and they can do it pretty quickly. And the problem is IT departments are very costly, they have a low capacity, and usually the answer is no. So these folks have these great ideas, and they float off into the ether, unfortunately. Okay, education-wise, a big problem is this line going down right here. And I kind of mentioned it. People that get frustrated with syntax, they take a traditional CS course and they say, I don't like this, I'm gone. And that's sad for our society, sad for those folks, because they maybe could do great things in the field, right? And I don't mean to generalize, but kind of you can think of the people coming into a university as either big picture thinkers or puzzle doers. Now, most people are both, right? But the puzzle doer people, they get to those courses and they thrive, and they want to problem solve, but they'll do any kind of puzzle, right? So they get to the frustrating part and they're like, this is cool, good. And they have a good experience. So what we want to do with like my book and Thunkable and using these tools in courses is have a better success rate, and people can go into these other fields and be very successful. Okay. Yeah, Jan, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. So anyway, this is just and you can check this out later and take a look at these, kind of the differences between, drag and drop code versus traditional code in education. And one of the big things is, in most CS1 courses, we do try to make it interesting and build kind of cool things, but you don't usually build stuff even with user interfaces, and certainly not sensors and speech recognition, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so unfortunately, you don't get to do that. Whereas, as you saw today, in your first 10 minutes, you're doing that with a tool like Thunkable. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the book. Here's a link to get to the Amazon page if you want to check out the book on Amazon. And then drag and drop code, you can also get to, with every chapter, I also have videos that accompany it, okay? Or not most of the chapters, at least right now. So anyway, you can get and start learning right away if you want to check that stuff out. Part of the book is it's a bunch of fun tutorials, so you get to build stuff. Every chapter you build some apps. But my goal as a teacher is I sneak in the concepts. Okay, so like, I'll have my students in my office sitting on the couch or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, I'm doing math. I didn't realize I'm going to do all this math. Or, oh, wow, I've learned all this logic. And it sneaks up on them, right? And that's my goal, is make it real fun, but then I stop them as we go and, kind of do worksheets and make sure they learn that, like one terminology we learned today is event handler, right? And so I want students to get, be able to talk the talk of code. Anyway, the book's great for code camps. It's great for self-paced learners. And I think it's great for inside the classroom, right? And also, for those of you that are experienced coders, this is a great tool to rapidly prototype stuff and to, and you can pick it up real quickly. So anyway, I think it's a great tool. Okay,
so I browsed through your book. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I browsed through your book. Please. I think they are more condensed compared to the previous book. Is it so?
I don't know about condensed. There's more chapters.
Yeah, more chapters. I mean,
it's rewritten to use the new drag and drop interface.
I see.
Of Thunkable is a big change, and then I just kind of rewrote it to make things a little clearer, and added some additional examples and that kind of stuff from the previous book. Yeah, okay. But right now there's only paperback version of it, Jan, and where the other book is got the Kindle version. So there will be a Kindle version of the new book as well. Okay, I definitely encourage people, Thunkable, the default is going to be that drag and drop UI. And it is basically right now. And so that's really the way you want to go. And that's where the newer book uses that. So just real quick for teachers and also for students, the way you want to do it is go through the tutorial and build the app. And those are usually very step-by-step instructions. It tells you how to do it, which is fine. But then you need to stop and conceptualize, right? Really think about the terminology and then customize. So there's at the back of each chapter, or, forget about the chapters. If you're going through this, once you do something, then try to customize it in some way, maybe even a small way. But what you want to do is get to where you're not following instructions, but you're doing something on your own, a small thing. And that's why I put the customization problems at the back. So it basically says, oh, I just built this app, now make these little tweaks. And that's where people get to apply what they learned. Then the other thing is do some creative projects. And that's a lot of my students, that's when they really take off. Is I say, okay, build something somehow related, but build what you want. And that really gets people going and they learn a lot. Okay, and the book is basically broken down into 3 parts. Code Camp 1 is introduction. Okay, and you build like kind of like what we were doing earlier. You build a soundboard app, and I have a dream app where it plays speeches of famous people. And then you get to like a countdown app and start using if blocks and conditionals. So that's kind of, you know, in 5 to 10 hours, you can get through those chapters and really kind of have a basic understanding of app building. Second part is you build a quiz, you build that Meet My Classmates app we talked about, you do some translation, you know, some more complex things. You build an American Sign Language app, an ASL app, where it does like animated finger spelling, and then you get to build a bunch of games. So this is really fun stuff that gets you a lot of experience with, you know, all, you know, different kinds of coding.
Yeah.
And
So
then
one
finally, kind
question.
of the more advanced stuff. And by advanced, just realize, you know, I have students that do this stuff in the first semester. Okay, so it's not like year 2, it's like the last 5 weeks of a 15-week semester. And you do repeat loops and you build like a math, you know, it's like a Khan Academy where you build an app where you give the user equations to try to solve arithmetic equations. You get to do some map stuff. And then chapter 11 is probably the most challenging app, but that's a full-on, not a full-on Instagram, but a, you know, a photo sharing app where users post stuff and users log in and all that kind of stuff. Okay, then you do a multi-user guessing game. You learn how to define functions, so you get into the software engineering stuff, and then objects, and you build some more apps here. So this is, you know, more complicated stuff and more cool apps, but it's really fun things to do. So that is what I call Code Camp 3, you know, and really that's just kind of the modules. Okay, Jan, do we have time to do a quick raffle?
Sure.
Okay, let me bring up, and I don't know if anybody, did people join the spreadsheet? Let's see if we got any takers. Oh, there. Okay, we got a few. Okay. Jan and Mr. Tess and Kwang and Totora. Okay, so let me just show you my raffle, and let me build that for you real quick. So here's our app, right? And I'm going to go back to the home page. And if you want, jump in there real quick to this, and maybe Jan can put in the chat, put the link to the raffle, or
Okay.
to the sheet. But anyway, here's what we got, right? And we're seeing a couple people here maybe. But I'm going to go back to editing, and I'm going to add a button, and that button is going to be, you know, pick a winner, right? And when I click that button, I'm going to have a label here, and it's going to put our winner in there. So I'll just call this guy winner label. Okay, and I'm just going to blank him out to start. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to go to the blocks now, and I want to do when the button 1 is clicked. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so when the button 1 is clicked, I need to do a couple things. One thing I need to do is I need to go and grab the whole column of names. And there's this list of values blocks, and I want to grab the name. And I need a variable, which I'm going to call my name list. And I'm going to say, well, it's an empty list to start. And then I'm going to say, okay, let's set my name list. And I'm going to grab all the stuff from the spreadsheet. So all this is doing is saying, let's go to the spreadsheet and grab all these names. And oh, great, people are joining up. That's terrific. Okay, so I'm going to grab this list of names. And then what I want to do then is I want to randomly choose one of the names. And we could actually do some coding to do it a little more complex, but Thunkable actually gives you this random item block. So I'm going to grab it. And what I want to do is I want to stick that into my winner label. So the winner label is going to show some random item, not from that default list, but I want to take it from my name list. Okay, so grab all the names from my spreadsheet and then choose one of them randomly and stick it in the label. And just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and, oops, not that, I want a speech. Let's also say the name out loud. Okay, so let's try it out. I guess I could say it in a different language. Now let's just do it in English. Okay. All right, so let me run the app and let's see if things work okay. Screen one, run. Let me do it on my phone. Let's see how this is going. So I'm going to, let's see, can you guys see my phone? Where's my phone? There we go. Okay, so I need to go back here, run it. Uh-oh, maybe something got messed up in the spreadsheet. Let's see. Okay, let me check. Sorry, my great
okay.
Raffle maybe is not going to work here. I don't know if something got messed up in our spreadsheet. Maybe this blank row. I don't know.
Empty rows, yes.
Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Let me see if I can rerun this guy. Oh, that's looking better. Okay, let's pick a winner before it breaks. No, okay, that's the woman that wrote the foreword for my book. I don't think Tara's here, so so I'm going to send her a book anyway. Let's pick another winner.
Oh yes, LY.
Oh, cool. Is that one of our audience members?
Anyone here with this name?
Elye, are you here? Must be present to win.
Yeah, she said in the comment section.
Oh, okay, good.
Professor,
Wonderful.
how do I join that thing?
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a winner. Wonderful. Let me bring up my presentation one more time. Let's see. Okay, so anyway, Elye, make sure to give your information to Jan, and I'll send you a book, the big prize of the book. And anyway, thanks everyone. And I'd love to take any questions that people have, and moderators. I don't know how we're doing time wise, but I'm happy to stay and answer more questions and do whatever you guys would like.
Okay, so someone asked like, is Thunkable open source and are there any tools shared in the community in Thunkable?
So the question
Is Thunkable the best tool is the question?
No, I will rephrase. So the question is whether Thunkable is open source or any other tools in the communities.
Good, good. Yeah, so I'll answer that in a couple ways. One is the apps you build in Thunkable are, there's actually they're kind of, it's one of the greatest open source experiments in the world. Like as you build apps, especially if you're on the free version, they're actually available to anyone. They're not private, but people share like crazy because it's real. Not only can you share the source blocks, right, but they're understandable and you can quickly run them. Whereas like a lot of open source stuff, when you get some big open source project on GitHub, sometimes even the startup just to get it running is really hard. So I think these tools like Thunkable and App Inventor have great, they're great for open source and sharing. Now the tool itself, Thunkable, is it's a company, right? And so it's closed. You can't get to its source code. App Inventor, and I'm not sure how much of App Inventor's original code is still in Thunkable, but App Inventor is open source. And if you wanted to build your own blocks tool, you could start with the App Inventor source code and go from there. So I'm not sure the person that asked that question, which angle they were looking at, but the apps you build are by default open source and there's a lot of sharing, but the actual tool itself, right, App Inventor, open source, Thunkable's not. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we have another question. Steven, yeah, you raise hand.
Okay, so teacher, did you make a Thunkable game by your own self?
Steven, say one more time.
Teacher, do you make a Thunkable, the whole game by your own self?
Oh,
okay.
no. Yeah.
Here's a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. No, I did not. I worked some, and my students worked some on App Inventor. So I helped build that a little bit, but just a minor part of that. We built like the where you share your projects. We built that in, and I built some other stuff. But I've mainly been teaching with these tools. So like I was one of the first App Inventor teachers, and now I'm teaching with Thunkable. But I didn't help build the Thunkable system. And in fact, the guys that started it, were two MIT students who worked on App Inventor and then said, okay, let's build a professional version of this thing. And they've done amazing things and built, I believe Thunkable has the best user interface ever applied to coding. It's a pretty amazing tool. So yeah, Stephen, that's a great question, but no, I did not personally help build Thunkable.
I think, yeah, Stephen also asking whether do you build a whole game, like a game in Thunkable.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you can build games like I think I mentioned asteroids. So you can build games where characters move around at certain speeds, where there's collisions, where there's sound clips. And it's not too difficult. In fact, there's a chapter in the book, I think it's chapter 9, which is on animation and games, and you build a couple games. And like a Save the Fish game is one where these little fishies are swimming around. And this is not in the book, but it's in a video accompanying the book. And the fish are swimming around, and then these bottles, like plastic bottles, are in the water, and you try to grab the bottles before the fish eat the bottles.
It's like a pollution in real life.
Yeah. It's an ecology kind of app, but it's fun. Yeah, so you can build all kinds of
like
games.
that.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I ask a few questions?
Please.
Yeah. Hello, Professor.
Hi.
My name is Kai, and I would like to ask you a few questions regarding this no-code platform. Actually, I would like to know about the web app. Actually, yeah. So, can I build on the Thunkable, and can I extract the code and deploy it on the cloud?
Finally.
Good. Yeah. So with the web apps in Thunkable, and I'm hoping I get this correct. I think I am. So you do have to have the pro version.
Yeah.
Okay. And in fact, if you buy the book, there's a special discount for I think $19 a month for
I
the
see. All right.
so-called
Yeah.
pro version. But anyway,
Okay.
if you have that and you say, okay, I want to build this web app. And the nice thing about a web app, folks, is you don't have to stick it on the app store, right? You have a URL
Yeah.
and people can run it on their phones and
Yeah.
without having to go through the app store, which is really cool. So it has to
Yeah.
run in a browser. So you can't do everything, like you can't do some of the phone stuff, right? But you can build other kinds of apps that aren't based on, some of the phone device stuff.
Yeah.
But the way it works, and that's a great question you have, is it actually lives at Thunkable. So Thunkable gives you a URL. You can
Okay.
change the domain on it, right? And you can do that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
the app is, partly why it's in the pro version is they host it for you. Okay.
Okay.
So it's hosted at Thunkable. You make whatever changes you make, and they come out in your web app. So, and you can I haven't done this myself, but you can embed those apps into web pages and do all kinds of stuff with them.
Okay. So what about scalability? Scalability, if I host it on Thunkable, is it auto
Good.
scaling?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they work with a lot of like Fortune 500 companies, and they've got people building real stuff. I don't know what how many examples they have where they've scaled to say thousands of users. But that's a great question. I'll try to find out, but it's interesting to know how the scaling would work. But they, I think they definitely have to have that set up well, because people are going to want that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think with their different levels, of pro version, et cetera, part of that is getting, scaling to larger user bases.
Yeah.
So yeah, it probably depends on, if, how much you need to pay each month in order to handle, high scalability.
Correct. I think for the Thunkable, this web app can be done on the pro version. And for Adelo, I think it's on starter version. It can be done. I think a little bit cheaper for the Adelo.
Yeah, is $1 like 25 a month, maybe?
Yeah.
Is the normal? Yeah. I mean, with the Thunkables, that discount I mentioned is a little bit cheaper, but yeah, it's interesting because you do tie yourself to a platform, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really get stuff out, and that's part of the whole business plan of a lot of these tools. Like I would love to see a blocks tool that is not where you can get your code out. And anyway, yeah, those are great questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your time and sharing
thank you.
all
Appreciate
the
it.
grateful things here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The first question is it free to download the
Thunkable?
Thunkable? Yeah, Thunkable. I think the question was, is it free to, you don't have to download it, but you can go to thunkable.com and you can register for free and you can start building apps. Yeah. And I think there's a limit of 10 apps you can work on at a time. So there's a couple limitations, but it's, but you can start right away and without installing anything. Usually it's better to install that. You remember when I was on my phone, I had this Thunkable app. So you do want to install that on a phone to test things.
So we have a questions on Facebook. So asking, so by learning low code and no code, whether one could become a professional developer. So
well, good. That's a great question. Now, there's all kinds of terminology out there, and sometimes people use professional developer to mean one that uses a textual coding language like Java, right?
Right.
I think that's the professional real that has a different meaning. It's really someone who builds software as part of their job. And And so those stats I showed are very interesting, right?
Yes.
It says that 4 times as many people will be building with visual tools compared to traditional tools, textual tools, in like 1 year. And and 70% of software will be built that way. So I think the short answer is, yeah, there is and will be even more jobs where you can use that. And it may not, I think, and you see this in the real world too, it's not necessarily that you go in and you are a software developer, but a lot of jobs, that's part of what you do, right? And maybe you're already working there and you start developing some automations or you do some coding, almost like people in their regular jobs build presentations and spreadsheets. And now coding apps is going to be the same kind of thing, right? Just a normal thing that people do is another digital creation, right?
Sure. Yeah, I saw your numbers, which are quite surprised. It's big numbers.
Yeah, it's striking. It is. It really is. I didn't, I've been looking at this stuff, that stuff for the last year or so. It's very interesting how it's taken off, and it's really, really. And I've been working with visual languages for decades, and they're great tools, and it's been interesting, but it's been a very slow process to see them come into the real world in a very popular way. And I think part of it is people have been resistant because it's like, oh, they're toy systems, they're not, and I think, people have realized, oh, they can do powerful stuff. And I think that's where you're seeing. And the other part of it is software is so expensive to build, right? Like hiring a coder or even going to your IT department is like, it dies, your idea dies. And now you can kind of bring your idea to fruition.
So his question is, what is the difference between Scratch and Thunkable? Scratch is like, the visual block-based coding stuff.
Yeah, good. So yeah, both are block-based languages. Scratch is wonderful for kids and adults. And I think with, Scratch was that really was the starter of all these languages. And essentially it let you do kind of storyboards and mostly kind of the animation game kind of stuff. And you can run them on mobile, I think, but they're not really set up for building mobile apps. Like, we did the like the speech recognition and image recognition, and you can use the camera. My belief is I don't think like you do that kind of stuff with Scratch. It's more like you set up your storyboards and then you can make animations and stuff happen. So I think I would say Thunkable is more complex and has more, you can build more complex apps with it. But it's probably a little bit harder to learn. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I think a lot of people say, oh, you need to do Scratch first before trying Thunkable or an App Inventor. I don't know if that's true.
That's we recommend it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good way to go. But I do think, depending on maybe someone's age or their experience, you could jump straight into some of these other tools.
Definitely, yeah. It depends on the age and the experience and the background.
Yeah, I think so too. So too.
So okay, so I think the time is like quite taken up. So maybe we will take 2 questions. So I have friends who is the KMA Carl. So do you like to have any questions?
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. KMA, hi.
Yeah. Hi, Professor. Yeah. Actually, I'm also testing a lot of low code and no code platform, because actually I'm working in one of the manufacturing company. So we trying to come up with the those kind of platform or those kind of application, because we want to let the so-called, you call it the seasoned programmer or something like that, right? So we like to have a different department to create their own application and so on, right? So one of the limitation we have right now is that because of the either the data or patent or the kind of things, we cannot really use a cloud app, right? So it is the thing is that the app should be in the on-premises kind of thing. So that will really limit our testing and limitations and so on. So yeah, I mean, if you talk about Thunkable or any other low-code, no-code platform, that will allow, of course, there will be some license fee, we understand, that can host in the like on-premises kind of thing. Yeah, that also will be quite useful for us to, to POC,
I think, and maybe you guys have looked at these, and are you talking about web apps or native
either one will do. I think even the web app also it's okay, because normally we don't use a phone, we use like tablet and iPad and so on. So definitely it's capable of running the web application. So it's okay. I mean, like, even we can run a web also is fine.
No, so definitely with Thunkable, you can install apps, and they don't necessarily have to talk to the cloud. Now, obviously some of the, if you're going to use the translator, it goes out and needs to be in the cloud. And and data wise, like if you were trying to go to a Google Sheet, that would preclude that. But they do have, like, Thunkable has local spreadsheets or that you can use, and local database kind of stuff that you can use. So if you want, in terms of the cloud, you can do apps that use device specific data. I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but that you can do that. And then I think, like, Bubble is more for web, not even necessarily web apps, but websites or web apps. And it's not really blocks, it's more of the dialogue based I was mentioning. But Bubble's a great tool for building, and that might be something where you could connect to more outside of the cloud, I guess. But yeah, sorry, I don't know too much about the kind of non-cloud building, but that's an very interesting question. That's interesting that's a big, that's important to be able to do that. So yeah, maybe
I think different kind of approach. I think, I mean, like, of course, web app and all the currently the Thunkable right now is actually good for, like, the educations and that kind of stuff. But now we are talking about the real enterprise kind of thing. So yeah, I think will be a little bit different. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we have one.
Yeah, there's a question. One question put up in the chat. She said, hello, professor. Let me just ask from here. Say, if this local no-code is the future, then what's the future of the real developers and coders who are normally supposed to be working in these particular roles? That's the question she wants to ask. Yeah.
I think that's a great question. And I definitely want to state, I think textual coders, okay, they are going to be in high demand still, and their jobs are not going away. I mean, I think the way our world is people that can build these interactive software, it's very helpful. It's part of our lives, right? So we you do need those people. What I see as the future is our tools get such that you can go to different levels as you build an app. So someone could come in and use the blocks and build the first versions, and then maybe the coders come in and they build parts that the blocks programming can't do, or they build something more efficiently. And it's interesting, like with Adalo, there's this marketplace, and basically people coding in JavaScript can create new blocks, new components. And so you've got this multi-level, development, right? Where most of the people can do this block stuff. And then you've got this real easy way for coders to come in and support that in a real-time way. So I think the future is both, and people flowing in back and forth. And certainly, once you learn a visual coding tool, it's a much easier leap into learning the textual coding as well. So yeah, I mean, clearly there's new, big picture thinkers that don't want to get into that are going to have, they do now, and they're going to have a lot more opportunity. But there's also, still a huge need for coders, or for textual coders.
So
that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think they will coexist.
Yes, coexist. Yes.
Yeah, coexist.
We can all live together. That's right,
Yeah.
Jan.
Right.
Jan, you can give folks my email. I'm happy to answer people's questions. I'd love to hear from people.
Sure.
And let me just say, thanks everyone. I really enjoyed this time. I appreciate really great questions, and I'd love to hear what you're doing. And if you build some stuff with Thunkable, I'd love to hear about that. So I thank you very much. I love being here. I appreciate it. And thanks to Jan and the moderators for doing such a great job. It really made me feel comfortable and enjoy the process. I'd love to work with you all again and talk with you again. So thank you.
Sure, Professor. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.